My name is Gary B., and this is another installment of The Message. Hopefully, a monthly update of what's going on with me and my meditation practice. 2 weeks ago, I had my first meditation class. This was the first one that was a paid meditation, and I had 4 people signed up for it. I feel like it went really well, actually, for my first one. The things that I struggled with were how to start. Like, people were there. I think I needed to talk about mindfulness and let people talk about where they are with their meditation practice. And then I could talk about where I am with mine. But we did stand in a circle and hold hands. And I asked them to realize that the studio that we are in when we do our meditation is a safe space to be. And I asked them to be open to allowing themselves to go on that journey with me. And I think that really helped. And then we did some breathwork exercises so people were relaxed. And I used my new chimes. I have the bamboo tube wind chimes that I really like to use. And so I quietly walked around the area while people were meditating and played these chimes. One of which is a chord G, which tends to be very grounding. And the other one was, it says it's tuned into summer, and it is summertime here in the Carolinas. So I thought that was nice. And then we did the beach. So I played beach sounds, and then we visualized being on the beach. And then we did a lot of loving kindness to each other. Well, not to each other, to ourselves. Doing these monologues can be really tough sometimes to keep going, and it's just whatever bubbles up in my head is kind of what I talk about. And then the other thing was the ending. So I wasn't quite sure how to end it, and I was hoping that people would share about their meditation experience. But I think they were so relaxed at the end that they just wanted to be in that space. And so my next meditation class is coming up. It is this Thursday evening. And I've been writing about and journaling like what I want to do and how I want that to look. And while I don't necessarily want to control that class, I do want to learn how to invite people in and have some open discussion and learn how to have some open-ended questions so that it encourages that. I do have 2 people signed up. This week we're going to do chakra work. So on here, there's one called Chakra Spectrum, if you want to listen to that. And I'm going to do kind of an adaptation of that. And I still haven't quite figured out how I want to do the ending to that, but it'll come. So like I said, the first one went really well. The owner of the studio was there. And the only feedback he provided was that I left the background music on while I played the chimes, and that distracted from it. So part of this journey is to continue to learn and just show up and do it. I really love the studio space, and I like the spirituality of it. I call it juju, and sometimes a little woo-woo, but there's a lot of very good energy in that space. And then it was, the guy that asked me to do it's been my massage therapist for about 7 years now. And so I've always gone there to heal, and I have enjoyed it from that standpoint. But it was a little bit different to come and bring that healing to that space and share that with others. And that's what was really, really neat. So like I said, this Thursday I've got 2 people signed up. The max I can do in a class, or the max that I want in a class, is 10. But I like these smaller groups, and they tend to be a little more personalized. But believe it or not, it's really hard to fill 60 minutes with meditation. Even I can't meditate probably more than 30 or 40 minutes, depending. But like I said, I'm adding to it slowly with either discussion or some type of mindfulness exercise. The other thing that I wanted to share is what's been going on in my personal life. So growing up from the time I was 11 until I moved out when I was 18, I was emotionally and physically abused by my stepmother, and my real father that I lived with at the time allowed that to happen. And I have carried that around with me into my adult life. It has made some of my behaviors very strange at times, depending on what's going on around me and the situation I'm in. And when I got sober, which I did about 8 years ago, I started to also go to therapy because I knew I would have to deal with that. And I share this because it's background. I don't share it. I always say that I don't share this because I don't want people to feel sorry for me. That's not the point. The point is that I want people to know you can heal if you have been through abuse. And so I did 4 years of what's known as parts therapy. And towards the end of last year, and then I stopped going to therapy because I just wanted to live. But towards the end of last year, when I switched job roles, I had to be in front of clients and do pre-sales. I switched from installation engineer to sales engineer. And there was a client that had pushed back on the idea that I brought up, and I just crumbled. I froze because typically that's how I would react. It's a trauma reaction. And that's what it came from, is left over from this abuse that happened to me. And I couldn't live with that. It took me probably 2 or 3 minutes before I could even speak again. And during a sales call, that's really difficult. Thankfully, I had other salespeople and other people from my company on that call that could support me and fill in. But it literally took me about 3 minutes to come back. So I had contacted my previous therapist, and he put me in touch with another guy at his practice. And I started seeing him last December. He specializes in EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization reprocessing. And so essentially, the gist of it is that we pick a memory, we pick the opposite of what that memory feels to me. And then he literally moves his fingers back and forth, and I follow them with my eyes as I allow the feelings to come back up that I felt during that memory. And while that work is hard to do, it's really hard to feel that again. They're very short stints of refeeling and reprocessing, and they do pass. And then eventually there's the memory actually kind of fades, and it doesn't have the emotion in it anymore. And then at the end of that, once the memory is no longer disturbing, we write in the opposite of that, so to speak. And so we go through until there's no more disturbance, basically. And so we have done 2 of these, and they were the 2 main traumatic memories that I remember from living with my stepmother and my real father. And neither one of those memories affect me anymore. And this last one that we did was one of the harder ones to do, and one that I've held on to for a long time. And so I see him on Monday nights, and Monday when I walked out of there, I was free of this memory. And I share that to let people know you can heal. There's power in this. And it kind of goes along with my meditation practice, because we use meditation in the EMDR, especially at the end. And there are he uses meditative techniques to go to safe places, and I can get there because I've been doing meditation. I've been meditating almost daily for probably the last 6 years, and I can get to that spot. There's one of my meditations on here, Walk in the Woods, visualizing myself being on that rock in the clearing in the woods. That is like super safe for me. And that's an actual place I used to go when I was a kid because I felt safe there. I was alone. It was probably maybe a half a mile into the woods. No one's going to sneak up on me. No one could see me. And I could just sit on this rock, and depending when you were there, I could be in the sun, and it was just very, very safe. So this week, I literally have been like floating through life. I'm not hiding behind fear. I don't have those negative thought loops in my head, which I had for a long time. One of the things that my stepmother did was she used to have me lay on the floor, and she would stand over me and tell me that I'm a bad person and that I will never make anything of myself and that I can never be good, and that, nothing I ever did was good enough for her. That was the memory that I needed to work through, was, that shame of feeling like I wasn't good enough. And so I'm not hiding behind that anymore. The fear, there's much, much less fear of putting myself out there now and being myself. I am a good person. I do have something to contribute. And it's just absolutely wonderful. I don't have the words to describe the sense of freedom and healing that I've had this week. It's deep and profound, and it's just absolutely amazing. And so that particular memory now is like very, very faint. Like I have to really work at bringing that back up. And the guy that I've been working with has been just amazing. He's very gentle and kind and caring. But he also calls me on my BS, which I love. And he's been there for me as I did this work. And we did it together, but I showed up and did the work. So for anyone out there that is suffering from any type of abuse or plays memories over and over in your head and feels that trauma again, you basically re-traumatize yourself every time. There is help out there and you can heal. It's not fun work, but it's extremely rewarding. And so that's a real freedom for me this week. And I've been trying to share that with other people and be some strength and hope to let you know that you can recover and you can heal. I also wanted to talk about how I come up with my meditations. The ones that I've posted on here, some of them have been adaptations of ones I've heard, especially the recovery ones. Sometimes it's like what I'm working on. Sometimes I am somewhere and I just get a thought like, oh, that would be really cool. One of my friends that goes to a meditation meeting I attend, she's doing a lot of inner child work, and she talked about reading this book about inner child, and there's 5 things that the adult in us can work on with that inner child. And I thought it'd be really cool to do contemplation about those 5 things. And so as I start to develop that in my head, it becomes like a breathing exercise. And then what are we going to visualize so that we feel safe? And then once you're in that safe spot, I might use the quiet pool. I like a quiet pool to put an idea in and see what bubbles up inside of me. And then the 5 things we'll go through, and then how to reflect on what came up for you, and then calmly bring you back, and then finish the meditation. And in general, that's kind of what goes through my head as I try and do that. I usually write like an outline for it. And then if I go and lead it live, it just comes out. I really, when I have an idea and an outline that I'm going to follow, when I get to that space, I try and bring energy to that space. And as I'm doing the meditation, I literally feel like I'm channeling energy through myself and out into the room to share with others. And then I just let go and kind of let the feeling and guide me. And I try and feel where people are at. I like to do silences, and then I can tell when people kind of get like, is he going to say something now? Is he not? And then I let them go like maybe 30 more seconds beyond that, because that helps teach them to sit in that discomfort. Because I do that in my meditation practice when I listen to someone else. And so I kind of try and read the room when I'm doing it. The other one I'll talk about is the chakra spectrum one that I did was actually inspired because when I went to visit my parents in Colorado, a thunderstorm rolled through. And at the end of it, I could see in the distance that the sky was really, really dark, but the sun was shining. So I knew there was a rainbow somewhere. And I went out on the porch and there was a double rainbow, and it was a bright double rainbow. And I was like, wow, I think we need to contemplate on the colors. And both sides of the spectrum, one side is black, then there's Roy G. Biv in the middle, and then there's white. Think like what popped up in my head is that Pink Floyd t-shirt with the prism on it. And so that was the basis of the chakra spectrum. I was talking with somebody about, seeing this rainbow and how I wanted to go through the colors. And they were like, oh, chakras are connected to colors. You might want to pull that into it. And I love the collaboration that I get with the people that I have met that show up week after week and do these meditations with me. They're incredible people and they love to collaborate. And I hope that I've given them some ideas. And so that's how that was born. And I let it live. And one thing that I might start doing is I might bring an extra phone with me, and I might start actually like recording the live ones so I can go back and listen to them. Because it's very different when you record a meditation, at least it is for me, than when you do it live. When I'm recording, I'm looking at it kind of from an engineering standpoint. Like, what are the prompts I need? How far apart do they need to be? Where does the music need to come in and go out? And I actually was a DJ for about 7 years. And I've always been an audiophile and a music. Music has been a big, big thing in my life. Music gave me a lot of freedom. And it always was my escape. So books and music were where I could put headphones on and listen to music and go somewhere else and not be in the present. And so being able to edit audio files and provide a musical soundtrack is part of the bed, so to speak, of the meditation. But I digress, rabbit hole. So anyway, when I work to record a meditation, it's a much different process for me. And what's been interesting in doing these and recording these has been, it's a creative outlet for me. But when I listen to them back, they're not the same as they are live or in a group. And while some of my meditations that I have recorded so far didn't come out exactly as I thought they would, I just let them be. If you go all the way back to the very first one that I posted up to the last one that I just did, which was a loving energy one, that one I actually did live as well. I usually do it live first, and then within a day or two, I come into the studio and record it and do all the post-production and then post it. So I just thought it'd be interesting to kind of talk through some of that process for me. And so that leads me to work. I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about there's times when I'm rolling along and I'm working on multiple things at once, because what I do on a daily basis, I have people trying to reach me and pull me in different directions. And so because this centers around meditation, I use meditation at work. Excuse me. If I'm getting pulled in too many directions, I get up from my desk and I walk somewhere else in the building. And then, I can sit somewhere. We have 2 locations that are kind of cool that have a group of chairs, and one of them has a couch, and they are quote unquote collaboration areas. But I'll just go and sit on the couch and literally close my eyes and breathe to clear my head for a minute. And usually most people leave you alone. And then I can go back and I usually write out the 5 things I was working on, or however many, and then I knock them out one at a time. And I really try and focus on one at a time. I have turned off all of my notifications. I don't have any sounds, electronic sounds pretty much, that play on my computer. I don't have any that play on my phone. And that's both my personal and my work. And that's credit to my first therapist. He wrote a blog about how, your phone tries to distract you all day. And so literally the only noise my phone makes is if someone calls me. I'll check my text messages and all the rest of whatever I want to check when I want to check it. And that's been really, really helpful. But I kind of wanted to talk about, I do use meditation outside of actually like sitting and meditating, and use those techniques. The other thing that I've done recently is I bought a mountain bike so I could ride it here. Where I live is close to a greenway, and so I can bike down to the greenway, and then I bike down quite a ways and then come back. The challenge with that is that, it's downhill to get down to the greenway, and it's uphill all the way back to my house. But that's fine. I just have to be aware. And that's the part where the meditation comes in. When I go and ride my bike, I have to be present. It forces me to be present, because if I'm not, I'm either A, going to run into somebody, or B, I'm going to, wreck or fall over. As I learned, if you stop the bike, it just falls over. And that's just me being me. And I haven't ridden a bike in probably 10 years. So I had to get used to being on it and how to control it again. But when I'm down on the greenway and I can feel the wind coming through my face, and, it's beautiful outside, and I'm breathing the fresh air, and I'm usually in the sun, and I have to be present on that bike. And to me, that's what meditation and mindfulness is. It's being present in the moment. And so I'm very aware of my surroundings, especially on the greenway, because I don't want to hit anybody. On your left. When I live in an urban area. And so a lot of times when I have time to go there, the greenway is busy. So I just have to be very aware. And also I have to be aware of my physical body. So I have to be aware of how tired am I. I have to turn around and go back. One of the things I think about is, if you walk 3 miles into the woods, you got to turn around and walk 3 miles out. So I not only have to be present with what's going on, I have to be present inside of my body. And that's where like a body scan comes in. And these are techniques that I've learned in my meditation that I'm applying, and I may not even realize that I'm applying them. I'm just very in tune and in touch with what's going on most of the time with me. So that catches you up to where I'm currently at in my meditation journey. And I just felt compelled to share all that today. Like I said, I write little outlines, so I wrote a little outline here. And I guess what I want to leave you with is, first of all, A, thank you for listening. B, I hope you enjoy the meditations. I do have 2 or 3 more in the pipeline, and they're bubbling in the back of my head. I also want to start focusing more on the steps, because that's one of the reasons that I started this channel, was to provide more step work meditation, because I think step 11 is important, but we can apply step 11 to the rest of them, 1 through 10 and 11 and 12. And it says in our book that love and tolerance is our code. And so that's what I'd like to leave you with. I have been practicing approaching people and the world and my job with love and tolerance. So while I may not like what everyone around me does, I don't have any control over what other people do. And if I can approach that with love and tolerance, most people respond pretty well to that. Just remember that no response is a response. I don't always have to respond to everything around me. And that provides me serenity. And ultimately, that's where I want to be. This week in particular, my serenity has been incredible. And that's a wonderful place to live. So again, I thank you for listening. And just know that you are loved and that I love you. So may the light and love that I see in me shine on the light and love that I see in you. Namaste.